WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, everyone. The paperwork is signed and sealed. The manslaughter charge against former Columbus police officer Kenyon Boykin has been dismissed with prejudice. That's a sticking point with some people upset over the Attorney General's decision. Today, dozens were right outside the Columbus Police Department asking for help. Our Quentin Smith was at the demonstration and joins us now live from the municipal complex.
Yeah, Joey, this is the order signed by Judge Lee Colbin dismissing the manslaughter indictment with prejudice. Legal experts say this rarely happens in criminal cases. Now, those protesters who were out here just hours ago are hoping the Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, will hear their voice and think about the impact this case is having in the community.
We have a lot of signs that says justice for Ricky.
Simple,
I am Ricky.
but yet powerful messages.
We have signs that say Black Lives Matter, all lives matter.
Several protesters filled the parking lot outside the municipal complex demanding answers about why the Attorney General dismissed the manslaughter charge against former Columbus police officer Kenyon Boykin and the shooting death of Ricky Ball back in 2015.
It didn't sit well with me. I don't like it.
That's disrespectful. For after what happened up there in Minnesota, for you to come back and like do that right after that with no explanation, just two paragraphs. Come on.
Work with us or be the enemy. That's the only choice.
David Horton is from Columbus, and he took his microphone to help rally his community together. He says the next step is to get police as well as city and state leaders to join them during these peaceful protests. He believes there can be healing.
My reaction is not fear. I'm not intimidated. I'm not afraid to talk to Attorney General Lynn Fitch face-to-face by herself, behind closed doors if she needs to be. I'll work with her.
Horton says he felt compelled to speak out about what he calls an injustice in this case.
It's the most critical thing in my life because I have a child. If I don't stand up for what's right for somebody else's child, it could happen to mine.
We want to be heard. It's that simple.
It can go on for so long until somebody actually agrees to get up and speak about it. And, you know, we're just tired of it, man, and we need justice.
Now, along with signing those petitions, those who came out to the peaceful protest today also had a chance to register to vote. I spoke with a few protesters from today, and as you can imagine, they say they're devastated and stunned by this recent development. Now, of course, we're going to continue to follow this story and bring you the latest details as they become available. But for now, that's the very latest from here in Columbus. Quentin Smith, WCBI News.
Now, whether to have charges dismissed with or without prejudice, many people were wanting to know the difference between the two. Dismissing a case with prejudice means a case is permanently closed and is dismissed for good. To dismiss without prejudice means charges can be refiled and the case could potentially be presented again in court. The dismissals are common in civil and criminal cases, and the motion typically comes from the prosecuting attorney.
All defense counsel want everything dismissed with prejudice because that means you can never charge their client again. But, I mean, the prosecutor, if he says he's going to dismiss the case, then most defense counsels will agree to dismiss it, whether it be with prejudice or without prejudice, because that means their client is not being charged. Obviously, that's a good thing for their client.
While the decision to dismiss with or without prejudice typically comes from the prosecutor, it's ultimately the judge who has to sign off on the motion, which is what happened in the Boykin case. Now, Tupelo leaders are continuing to keep an open dialogue on race relations between the police and the community. WCBI's Allie Martin reports.
Tupelo Mayor Jason Shelton called for a joint meeting of the city's Police Advisory Board and the Community Outreach Task Force for Monday morning after protests over the death of George Floyd turned violent in larger cities over the weekend.
You need to come forward and say what happened is wrong.
Pastor Chris Traylor is president of the Lee County chapter of the NAACP. He wants elected leaders and others in key positions to publicly denounce the death of George Floyd, saying it would go a long way to calm the outrage seen across the country.
Once a suspect is under control, any application of force is to be halted.
Late last week, Tupelo Police Chief Barty Gary sent a letter to the mayor and to council members condemning the behavior of the Minneapolis officers in the death of Mr. Floyd. He says tactics used by those officers are not taught by Tupelo police at the North Mississippi Law Enforcement Training Center.
We hold ourselves to a higher standard, so we're going to make sure that our officers do not even practice anything near what we saw on video. It is appalling to all of our officers, to see another officer conduct themselves that way.
Officers also undergo ongoing training in race relations, de-escalation of a situation, and other exercises. Mayor Shelton believes it's important for everyone to have their voices heard and to trust city leaders and officers on the street.
Tupelo is the first city in the state to have a police advisory board. We're one of the first cities in the state to have body cams for all of the officers.
Dr. Richard Price is pastor of North Green Street Church of Christ and chairman of the Mayor's Community Outreach Task Force. He says these critical times will impact future generations.
I think we need to ask ourselves, what are we expecting out of the next generations, and what do we expect the fabric of our city and our country and our world to look like? I'm hoping that it'll be the same type of continuance of dealing with hard issues, because they're there and we can't ignore them, but also a willingness to see each other and to begin to get to know each other in different ways.
This is the first joint meeting of the two groups, but the Police Advisory Board and the Mayor's Community Outreach Task Force meet on their own every month. In Tupelo, Allie Martin, WCBI News.
We've had some pretty nice weather, including today. Not bad. Temperatures topping out in the mid-80s right now. We've got some low and mid-80s, also some upper 70s in Oxford and in Starkville right now. Some fair weather clouds across the region, but all things considered, a great Monday. We've got temperatures in the 80s now, cooling down through the 70s into the 60s. That's a planner for our Tupelo area tonight, down into the mid-60s. Most of us somewhere in the mid to maybe low 60s. The air is still relatively dry. That will be changing tomorrow. We stay warm, upper 80s. Let's go with about 89 degrees. There is a 20% chance for a few spotty showers or storms. Better rain chances for the middle to end of the week. We'll talk about it and also have a look at the tropics coming up in just a few minutes.
New at 6, an area lawmaker is stepping down due to health reasons. State Senator Gary Jackson announced today on the Senate floor that he would be resigning June 30th. The Republican from French Camp says he felt good when he ran for re-election, but his health has quickly deteriorated the past few months. Jackson was first elected in 2004. He represents parts of Choctaw, Montgomery, Oktibbeha, and Webster counties in District 15. The governor will have to set a special election. Updated COVID-19 numbers in Mississippi today. 2 deaths are being reported in Oktibbeha County. There are now 739 total coronavirus deaths in the state. The state health department is also reporting 251 new cases. The new cases bring the state's total to over 15,500. MSDH estimates about 1,100 people have recovered from the virus. State leaders and health officials continue to ask people to wear masks out in public. At today's press briefing, Governor Tate Reeves and State Health Officer Dr. Thomas Dobbs took a sharper tone as some areas of the state are seeing more community spread of COVID-19.
And when you're talking about numbers that are still relatively low, an increase of 40 or 50 or 100 a day, that's only 1 or 2 a county, can have a huge impact, which ultimately drives down to hospital use, hospital utilization, which can then put us in a really, really harmful scenario. And that's what we're trying to avoid. That's the reason we're encouraging people to wear masks. And that's the reason we're encouraging people to realize that we can loosen restrictions. We can give individuals the opportunity to do good, to make good decisions, while still having a sense of normalcy.
Health experts say wearing a mask helps prevent someone from spreading or getting the virus, but is not a 100% guarantee. Meanwhile, the Lee County Courthouse is closed for the next few days after an employee tests positive for COVID-19. County officials say the courthouse will be closed through at least Wednesday. Tomorrow, the entire building will receive a deep cleaning and be disinfected. We're told by Wednesday they'll announce when the courthouse will reopen. In the meantime, payments can be left at a deposit box outside the courthouse. Payments and other business can also be done online. The employee is not hospitalized and is recovering at home under a doctor's care. There's more testing and more COVID-19 cases. Tonight, we take a look at where those patients are coming from and what one hospital is doing to help. Our Stephanie Poole joins us in the studio with more. Stephanie.
That's right, Joey. The Mississippi State Department of Health reports Oktibbeha County has 243 coronavirus cases. Just in the last 2 weeks, nurses at OCH say a spike in positive tests has them working around the clock.
This virus is still very present. COVID-19 is still something that we are worried about. It is still something that we are seeing very ill people coming in with.
Savannah Brown is an infection control director at OCH Regional Medical Center in Starkville. She says while some people do test positive for the virus, they're noticing that the majority of patients are from long-term care facilities.
In our county right now, we do have several long-term care facilities that are dealing with COVID-19, one or two in particular where we are seeing a pretty significant outbreak. And while that outbreak does not the patients in that outbreak do not account for the entire spike, we do have quite a few employees at some local long-term care facilities that are also testing positive, and those people do count as part of our community count.
Due to those high numbers, the hospital is relying on extra hands to assist infected patients.
We have had to stretch our staffing a little bit. We have some OR staff that are helping on the COVID units as well as our med-surg units, both in our COVID ICU as well as our normal ICU. It has helped a good bit, I will be honest about that, because right now, partially due to this long-term care facility outbreak, we are seeing a lot of COVID-19 patients compared to what we had been seeing prior.
Those volumes are reflecting the amount of people testing too. ICU Medical Director Cameron Huxford says the amount of COVID-19 testing has almost doubled.
We did have an increase last week compared to prior weeks. We'd been averaging about 40-something in the drive-through for the last few weeks. That went up to mid-60s. Many of those were people who had been exposed to someone who had been told they had the virus, so it was like, contact tracing.
Huxford says while it seems like COVID-19 numbers are going up, more patients with the virus are actually recovering.
I don't want to minimize the fact that we say we only have long-term care facility patients here. We are able to take care of other folks with the coronavirus. It's just the average healthy person in the community is not needing hospitalization.
All of OCH's outpatient clinics are now open. Visitors must go through mandatory screening before they can enter the hospital.
You're familiar with the term play ball? Well, play ball. And now athletes across the state are finally able to do just that. We've got reaction from one area coach when we come back. Welcome back, everyone. It's the moment athletes have been waiting for, getting back in the game. COVID-19 put a pause on all sporting activities in recent months, but today is the first day team practices can begin. But coaches, players, and parents must all be aware of health guidelines. Starkville Academy head football coach Chase Nicholson says today's practice was electric and full of energy.
The energy level's high, the kids are excited, the flow of the campus is awesome. Yeah. So as we're getting into it and seeing the guidelines work so well, I mean, we've been checking temperatures, asking questions, have you been around somebody sick? Have you had a fever? All those standard questions, and our guys are coming in like robots. They're ready for it.
And Nicholson, like all of us, hoping that by the start of football season, everything will be back to normal. Well, Keith, a good day for them to be out practicing.
Yeah, not bad. Lots of sunshine, low humidity.
Yeah, you got to love that anytime you can get it, especially in June.
No kidding. That will be changing, though, Joe, of course, as we get farther in time here. And checking things out today, our Louisville, Mississippi time lapse. Look at all that sunshine, some of those wispy cirrus clouds coming in. A great day. But as I mentioned, things are changing. We'll talk about it in your forecast next.
First Alert AccuWeather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
June 1st, today is a summer month. Meteorological summer is here, June, July, August. astronomical summer will start in a couple of weeks, but right now, let's just say it is summer. It looks and feels like it. Our average highs this time of year, mid to upper 80s as we get into July and August, and even into early September, the average high is still in the low 90s before we start the downward trend going into fall. So temperatures are still rising. It's going to get hotter and hotter, and the humidity returns tomorrow. This is the comfort index for the rest of the week. We are looking at humid and or muggy conditions going forward after tonight. So savor that dry air that's still in place. We start out in the upper 60s tomorrow, back into the upper 80s. Can't rule out a spotty shower or storm because of the increased humidity that will be in the air. Most spots probably won't see it, but we may see a few showers or thunder showers around the region. Warmer, more humid. That's what happens this time of year. Our tropical weather update. What is going on down in the Gulf of Mexico? We have a new tropical depression. This is Tropical Depression 3. Just forming there near the Yucatan Peninsula. It is going to be hanging out here in the southern Gulf for the next couple of days, doing a little do-si-do type thing down there. Will it weaken? Will it lift back to the north? We suspect at some point it will lift back to the north later this week and perhaps approach the northern Gulf Coast by the end of the weekend or early next week. This is still way up in the air, folks, so we'll just see how this all plays out. Several different scenarios, but we have something to watch down there for the next few days for sure. Our time lapse from Vernon at Durham's Pharmacy. Notice those high cirrus clouds coming down in this afternoon. In general, a pretty nice day. Some cumulus clouds, puffy cumulus clouds to our east today, symbolizing some additional moisture, that moisture coming back in here. But this evening looking great, partly cloudy. We start out in the upper 60s to around 70 tomorrow morning. Upper 80s tomorrow afternoon. Notice how we may see a few showers or thunder showers around. Those will tend to go away with the heating of the day. So quiet tomorrow night. And then again, a chance for a few more showers and storms as we get into our Wednesday, probably Thursday, perhaps Friday too, and maybe even in the Saturday too. But I think Wednesday, Thursday, a better chance there. Upper 80s to around 90 for the next few days. Lower 90s return for the weekend. And as I mentioned, we'll be watching what's happening down there in the Gulf of Mexico by the end of the weekend. But until then, it's just going to be hot and humid with some of those spotty storms.
All right, thanks, Keith. One of the area's top softball coaches has found a new program to lead. The latest on high school coaching news next in sports.
CDI Sports with Tom Ebel is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
Legendary high school softball coach Lee Berryhill has found a new home. The former East Webster head coach will lead a program 25 miles east of Mabon. Starkville Academy has hired Berryhill to become the head softball coach, and he'll also join the baseball program as an assistant coach. Berryhill spent the past 8 seasons with East Webster, winning 5 state championships combined in slow pitch and fast pitch. Berryhill also won 2 state championships in 17 years as the head baseball coach of Eupora prior to his time at East Webster. It's been a wild 2 weeks for former Mississippi State Bulldog Jarian Jones. Jones entered the transfer portal on May 19th. Less than a week later, Jones committed to play for Ole Miss. 2 weeks after that commitment, Jones has announced he will enroll at Florida State University, joining another former Bulldog, Fabian Lovett. Jones had 12 tackles and 2 pass breakups as a true freshman at Mississippi State this past season. A wonderful sight for sports, hopefully getting back to normal in the fall. Ole Miss athletes returning to campus Monday. The NCAA allowed voluntary athletic activities for Division I sports to begin today. The SEC has stated all sports can return to the practice field and weight rooms starting on June 8th. Ole Miss men's basketball in Dayton has agreed to a home-and-home series for the next 2 seasons. Rebels will be on the road in 2020, traveling to Dayton on December 19th. The Flyers finished this past season ranked 3rd in the country, and Dayton will also face Mississippi State in Atlanta this upcoming season. New Albany head soccer coach Carl Vogel joins Blue Mountain to lead its inaugural men's soccer team. Vogel spent 7 seasons with the Bulldogs, posting a record of 137, 81, and 12. During that time, Vogel earned the MAC Boys North All-Star coaching honor and finished the 2019 season leading New Albany to a North half final appearance. Blue Mountain begins men's soccer competition in 2021. That's it for sports. A last look at your forecast coming up next.
Well, I hope you enjoy the dry air because that's out of here.
Gone.
Muggies are back.
Well, for the rest of the summer, probably.
Probably so, yeah.
All right, thanks, Keith. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Have a good night.